The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Welcome to the Thinking Tackle Podcast. Well, once again, guys, we've got no guests in the studio due to lockdown, but don't worry, we've got a great show coming up for you today. Right, later on in the show, we've got Monster Carp and Korda's very own Tom Dove. We've also got bait specialist John Baker. Now, John's going to share with us some really interesting information, which I know you're all going to really love. But all that's later. Coming up now, we've got fishing YouTubers, Carl and Alex. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, hello there. We're talking to a camera once again. This feels a little bit more comfortable for us because we just got our camera in front of us rather than in the studio and there's microphones everywhere. But yeah, nice to see you.
You two weren't nervous, were you, when you came in the studio?
I was pretty nervous.
Yeah,
we were live. I had to say the right things. I couldn't mess up.
So it feels different now, does it? Doing it on a Zoom call instead.
It's a bit more casual.
Yeah.
It's not really the same though, is it?
It's not the same. I mean, for our listeners and viewers as well, it's like it was a difficult decision to make because we've toyed with the idea, Tobe, haven't we, of doing Zoom calls before over lockdown?
Yeah, that's it. We've been going on about it for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, it loses that personal element. But I mean, on the other hand, as well, you know, we get more content as well, which is good, and you know, I think we can make this work. Right. Okay. Anyway, one thing before we start the show, have you got a nice gift for us?
What?
Yeah. Did you not get the memo?
Oh, you're not playing this game again.
No, we've asked every guest to post us a gift so we can present it live over the Zoom call.
Oh, it's in the post. Royal Mail have been a bit, you know, it's not been.
Well, because the donuts last time just weren't up to scratch, lads. I'm afraid.
No one realised before, did they, that actually your gift was a little bit last minute, guys, wasn't it?
The donuts were good. Like no one turns down a nice.
Adequate was the word I would use.
They had hundreds of thousands on them.
There's no.
They weren't even Krispy Kremes, lads. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. YouTube doesn't pay that well.
You guys, it should do, because you've been doing really well recently. I've been looking at some of your viewing figures. Actually, you put a post up of your fish called Charlie in the pond, and you were feeding it out of a spoon, weren't you, with trout pellets?
Yeah. Not entirely sure why I tried to train my fish to eat from a spoon. That fish does not behave like carp in a lake. You know, it's had life way too easy. It just swims around in circles, gets a little pat on the head from me or Alex every now and then, and then we literally just hand feed it. And you know what's mad is I've always said carp don't really feed in the winter, and it's true, they do seem to feed less, and the same thing for my pet fish in the pond. But like the other day, it was -3 out there. There was ice, and I put my hand in with a handful of pellets, and it waddled up off the bottom and had an ate. So it just shows if you keep the bait going in through winter,
yeah,
carp will eat it. Like they won't say no to some food. But yeah, that one's a bit abnormal.
100,000 views that got as well. Could you have dreamt of 100,000 views 10 years ago on any of your videos?
No. When we started, we got like 10 views on a video, and that was
Our mum, our dad, our uncle.
We looked at it a few times, yeah.
And then it got 10 views. We thought that was mad.
No, I think every time when, like now, looking into the future, we might predict things that might happen, but when it gets to that stage, it won't be anything like what we were thinking now.
Yeah.
We couldn't have. We would have never thought that would have even been possible.
And does that kind of sum up how popular you guys are? Do you feel like now that you could put anything out? I mean, I know that you don't put anything out. The quality of the content is brilliant, but can you put material out now and just attract a large viewer base?
We could. We could just put more out and get more views and subscribers and stuff. But since we started, it's always been our target that we actually inspire people to fish. So rather than just milking it and just putting out loads and loads of stuff just for the sake of it, we've always felt if we're putting something out that it's a bit flat, it's a bit uninspiring, you know, there's not really the value there, then we're not doing what we set out to do. And whilst money and views and popularity is quite seductive, it's still quite important to stick to your roots and the reason why you did it in the first place.
Yeah.
And so that's why we will only post if we feel like it's actually something that is either going to make someone's day a little bit brighter, just a little bit, or it might inspire them to get on the bank. I mean, quality is important, especially in a world where there's so much content out there.
Yeah, definitely.
How many YouTube channels for fishing were there when we started?
It was probably like five
in Europe or something crazy.
Yeah.
I'm talking 10 years ago, but the game has changed entirely.
Did you see that as competition, or I mean, does it inspire you to have to do more, or do you just stick to your own kind of, you're focused on your own thing?
Yeah, we just try and do the best that we can. It's really nice actually to see loads of other people making videos about fishing, and seeing loads of other content that other people are making. But yeah, we don't really sit as competition.
It gives us something to watch.
Yeah, it gives us something to watch, and it's just really nice to see loads of other people making.
You're watching everybody else's stuff, are you, all the time?
Yeah, we look at loads of YouTube videos,
and not just in the fishing world as well.
Yeah,
because YouTube has blown up everywhere, But I mean, we find if we watch too much fishing stuff, it maybe reduces the chance of us doing something new and doing something maybe more unusual, because it's easy to sort of get stuck in a rut of just think this is what a fishing video has to be. But then when we get a little bit of inspiration from the fishing world, and then a little bit of inspiration from the snowboarding world or the music production world, then we go, oh look, there's different ways to make content. So just the fact that loads of people are doing it means there's more inspiration to be had, more places to
are there specific YouTube channels that you do watch away from, well, maybe in fishing, but maybe in the States, or just other sort of pursuits?
I watch this guy who makes food. A cooking channel, I guess you call it.
Right. Yeah.
That's someone who makes food. I watched him and the editing style. It's actually it's like a magazine called Bon Appetit. People who like food would have heard of it. It's a massive magazine and online videos that they make. But I watched loads of those, and I really like their editing style, so I tried to incorporate some of that editing style into our videos. And because fishermen hadn't seen that yet, it was kind of something new within fishing, which was really nice.
It's like music. In music, a modern day electronic dance music producer might listen to a bit of classical, and whilst they won't make classical music, they'll hear a chord sequence, or or they'll pick up little traits of that historic stuff, and they'll modernize it, change it, and like re-wrap it. So that's why we like to watch a nice range of content. I watch this very podcast, and I see elements within this podcast of other podcasters out there. I know you've watched the Joe Rogan Experience, and whilst you don't copy it, whilst you don't just replicate what you see, you take little ideas and little things, and it's cool. The world is so full of content now. Yeah, we mustn't complain about the competition. You should instead be looking for inspiration and make it power you a bit.
Yeah, it's how you morph stuff, isn't it? I mean, doing this sort of thing as well. We try and kind of we've got an original concept, but you can't sit with the same thing for too long, can you? Because that everybody out there is going to be, oh, you're doing the same thing, you need to change, and we know that as well. I think for us doing these shows, we spend a lot of time, Tobe, don't we, messing around with different pilots and different concepts. But I
thought you were just going to stop at messing around.
Well, we do mess around, don't we?
I saw your multiple attempts at this at the intro at the beginning of this.
Yeah, what he doesn't know is I'm going to actually cut that in on the original.
Yeah, right. if it adds to the views, I guess, you know.
They were mocking you, Si, not me. Sorry.
It's all right. But no, we do. We just mess around with things, don't we? And, you know, you decide what's good, what doesn't work. It's like writing a song, isn't it? Do you think Michael Jackson or the Beatles, every song that they wrote was a hit? It's not, is it? You have to keep trying and, you know, developing ideas and stuff. And that's why, you know, that's why we're not so quick to just put stuff out willy-nilly. But we've got some great ideas, haven't we?
That's staying in as well.
Yeah. He's taking the mickey out of my my lack of pronunciation skills. That's going in as well. This would be a good podcast, won't it? This one.
Brilliant.
Have you noticed during lockdown? I mean, have you upped the amount of video content you're putting out, or seen any patterns during lockdown?
The most recent lockdown, or throughout the whole?
Well, I was going to say actually generally since the start of the virus, really. Yeah.
Well, at first when we weren't allowed to go fishing, it was tough, but it also made us look at other things outside of just on the bank fishing videos. So it made us do some other things to get some content. Like I spent a few days playing a fishing computer game.
Yeah, during the first lockdown,
which was something I wouldn't have normally done.
Alex just sat playing fishing SimWorld on the PlayStation.
That is such a productive thing to do, isn't it? I mean,
I just thought, what is life coming to? You know, we used to make fishing videos. Now we're making the very thing which, you know, we thought we'd never do. It's gaming videos. But I mean, we only did that once.
Yeah.
But then once fishing was opened up again, and you know people could go fishing despite the other restrictions, we just noticed how many people were on the bank.
Yeah.
The banks got busy. Like there were queues on the first day after lockdown. You know, the first one. There were queues right down the road for our local fishery, and we just looked at this queue of cars and just thought, "Oh goodness me! You know, we're not going to get a swim on that 3 or 4 lake complex." So that got a little bit interesting. But I mean, whilst banks being busy and lots of people going fishing because, you know, they can't go to the pub or they can't you know, go to the gym or socialise, whilst the banks being busy is a bit frustrating as anglers, I think you can't complain that people are spending more time outdoors, that people are rediscovering fishing. They used to be interested in it when they were young or whatever. I think the COVID restrictions, whilst they have been dreadful for a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals, you've got to look at things. There's a lot of negatives, but there are also positives. And more people have spent time with more people have spent time with nature. And maybe exercising or walking, and a lot of people have chosen fishing too. I know the fishing economy has seen considerable growth. Just because more people are rediscovering fishing because there's nothing else to do. How's our channel gone? I mean, we've had an increase in views this last year.
Yeah, I think because so many people are fishing, they're also looking for like tutorials of how to catch fish and just wanting to watch fishing videos for some inspiration as well. We've had quite a few messages of people who have got into fishing because they can't do anything else. I think for fishing it has been really good.
Would you have expected a spike in, you know, YouTube watches and, you know, viewing figures?
I don't think before the whole virus thing, I really didn't have a clue what to expect. I don't know what I was thinking at the beginning of it.
It was for everyone. It was a surreal time, you know, when everything started changing, when the world started becoming this new normal. But the result has been, you know, if you look at the stats and you look at the figures, more people are searching for fishing stuff. More people are watching fishing stuff.
It's funny, you can see because we get to see the views on a graph on our statistics on YouTube, and it was the day when Boris spoke on TV about all the things you can and can't do on the first lockdown, and when fishing was allowed, when he said you can do activities such as fishing, that day the views of our videos went up, both on our main channel and also our tutorial channel. So it showed that as soon as people knew they could fish, it was great for views. Yeah,
but I mean, I don't think anyone would have chosen
definitely
things
not.
to be out there. We know quite a few people who have sadly passed away in the last few months. A good friend's father, a well-respected guy in the koi keeping industry who I was only in contact with, a matter of months ago.
Healthy people before that.
I'm sorry, say again?
Generally healthy people, not elderly people.
I mean, yeah, they're not super old. They definitely had a good 20, 30 years left in them easily if it wasn't for getting sick. So it's a bad thing. It's a horrible situation the world's in, and all we want is for things to go back to normal. But you've got to look for positives. If you don't look for positives, then you just spend your life crying. So yeah, more people have been going fishing. More people have been reconnecting with nature. That's a positive in my eyes. So yeah.
But I guess for you guys as well. I mean, you're self-motivated anyway, aren't you? Because you're working from, you're working for yourselves. I think for people that have been used to just turning up for work every day and, and going through that routine, it's been so difficult because we're finding that we've got to motivate ourselves instead of, having something to come in for. With you guys, I guess, has it changed that much in your lives? Because you were kind of self-sufficient anyway.
I wouldn't say I'm that self-motivated. But it hasn't really changed. No, because before the lockdown I wasn't self-motivated, and then after the lockdown I wasn't self-motivated.
No
I've had to crack the whip. I've had to crack the whip a few times whilst Alex has been at the desk editing. But we have things that we're keen to do. We've always got there's never not a new project. We finished one video and then the ideas for the next one are coming along. Working from home is something that loads of people have had to do this year or last year that they might not have had to do ever before in their lives. And I've got a friend who's had to work from home, and he's just banging his head against the wall going, this is ridiculous, I'm just going crazy. But we're very lucky that it's myself and it's Alex.
Yeah, we're lucky there's two of us. So it's almost like we are in a mini office.
We're in an office,
Yeah.
It might be a living room, but it's also an office, and we bounce ideas off of each other. We've always got a project, we've always got something to do. We like to keep busy, we never like sitting around too much, and just trying to keep motivated, keep looking forward. And to anyone watching this, just keep looking forward. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. There will be a time where we talk about those COVID days in the past.
Yeah.
So it'll be all right.
It will be. It will be. One video that I watched of yours that's really inspiring actually, and it was, I know that got a lot of views as well. Something like 300,000 views. Was a huge fish in danger. So you used to fish this park lake, and then during the summer they had a bit of a fish kill on there, and you guys intervened.
Everyone has a place that they remember since they were young. Everyone has a place they learn their skills, they learn their trade. Somewhere that you caught your first double-figure carp, somewhere you landed your first target fish. And for us, the Park Lake, not far from where we live, was that place. I don't know, when was it? It was August or something. We had that week when it was 30 degrees every day, just so hot. And the result of that hot weather and the dodgy leaks in the dam on this particular venue meant the water level had dropped right down, dangerous levels.
The water level looked like it dropped about 5 foot. I mean, looking at where they were stood in the bank above them, I mean, it had dropped an awful lot. So it went from being...
That lake is already really low.
It's already very shallow.
It's really silted up, and it's quite shallow anyway.
But the leaky dam, which has been leaking for years now, plus the very hot weather, resulted in an oxygen crash, and loads of waters this year had oxygen crashes. I heard of a syndicate water, I think it's near the Colne Valley or something. I think it was, that ended up losing half the fish in there. Dreadful fish kills, and they were happening all over the country. But yeah, the Environment Agency and the Angling Trust and whoever, they were all very busy, couldn't really help out.
So you guys were walking around there, saw that the fish were in distress, and then you took upon yourselves to go and purchase a pump and start pumping water back into the lake, putting oxygen back into the lake.
Yeah, we didn't really know what was the best course of action. We didn't really have a game plan. We're not trained in any of this, but we know from the fish keeping experience. Like the fish tank you see behind me. If the fish start gasping up near the surface, they haven't got enough oxygen. You need to start some water movement. So we've got this pump and a long pipe and start spraying water over the lake. And yeah, I mean, it took a whole week. And we had to camp at the lake because we didn't want the pump to be stolen or the petrol on the pump to run out. So we kept it going for a whole week, and it got a lot worse before it got better. That oxygenation of the pump, the disrupted water meant the fish, if they were sitting right underneath it, they could breathe.
Yeah,
they could just about breathe. And each morning, all these carp would be in this big ball, just gasping. I tell you, if that pump wasn't there running, it would have been total wipeout.
What was the DO reading? Dissolved oxygen. What was the reading?
The guy from the Environment Agency came down and put a little thing in the water, but I didn't see what the exact. I can't remember. Anyway, basically, the guy from the EA, when he turned up a couple of days after the initial crash, he put it in and looked at the reading and went, all these fish should be dead, mate. Like, what's going on? They should already be dead. It wasn't just that, it was high ammonia, and basically the water was not nice at all. Like, dogs were getting ill. When the dogs swam in the water, the dogs were getting sick, because of the algae and stuff. We ended up losing one fish. I say one fish, one carp. Almost all of the pike, tench, perch, roach, dead. There was death everywhere. It stunk. It was horrible. Pretty much
all of the other species.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, no doubt. There's always animals that survive in these crises. There'll always be the little ones that are okay. But as far as carp are concerned, we just lost one of the big ones. And yeah, the majority of the smaller carp were okay because of that oxygenation for that week period. But I spent a lot of time trying to make some progress with the local council to get the lake looked after again. And essentially, I'm told every time by the council it's the least of their worries. They got priorities elsewhere. It's just a lake, and it's sad. It's sad to see special places that the community loves kind of just ignored a little bit. And I know the world's very complicated at the moment, and I know financing these sorts of projects is very tough, but I said to the council, we'd do a crowdfund. We'd use our channel to put a crowdfund out there, get all of the local anglers and whatever to put some money in to help repair the leaks that are in the dam. Maybe do a bit of desilting work. We costed it up. We worked out we could raise the money. It was going to be possible, but the council wouldn't permit us to actually do anything. They got all like the red tape, the health and safety, the paperwork, and they just said no. And they banned fishing. That's the kick in the teeth after all of this. We had the local community, all these lovely anglers came together, saved these fish. Obviously not saved all of them, but saved as many of the fish as possible. And the result is the council banned fishing. And
they banned fishing after that, or it was already banned?
Fishing was banned prior to the fish kill. But I went to the council and said, look, this problem and how all of these anglers have come together to help proves that the fishermen care about the lake. The fishermen are the ones who are there picking up litter and cleaning the place up and caring for it. They should be allowed to at least fish. I'm not saying they should fish for free. Should pay a permit, and the money should go towards litter picking and protecting the park. Redoing the paths or whatever. But they're not. Fishing is bottom of the pile for a lot of councils. Do
you know how much it would cost to repair the dam? I mean, I guess repair the dam and then the lake starts filling up again.
Yeah, the dam repairs we costed by a construction company that does that sort of thing. They said £5,000.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, sweet, we can do that. I'll put £1,000 of my own money into that because I care so much about this place. I've got some friends who put money in. We do a fundraiser, but the council, nope, they don't care. And it wasn't even that they didn't want to help. It was that they didn't permit us to do it. It was surreal, really very surreal experience. I don't know what to do about it.
But I mean, it was quite humbling to see, you know, all these anglers, everybody come together so quickly as well, because you had to work fast there, like you say. You didn't have very much time, and but I mean, you can watch this on YouTube anyway. It's fascinating, and it's very inspiring to watch that. I mean, you guys didn't set out to make a video, you know, based around a fish kill, but I mean, it educates people a little bit as well, because you're talking about the algae and photosynthesis and how that works and how we get oxygen crashes in the first place. So it's educational as well. But hopefully the you get the fishing rights back and they wake up a little bit.
Fingers crossed. I'm hopeful. You never know. We'll try our best.
So what's coming up this year? I mean, have you got any ideas yet? What can you do? Are you going to stay in this country or, you know?
We had plans to go to America because we want to go carp fishing there. We really want to also go to the River Ebro in Spain, but it probably won't actually happen.
It's probably never going to happen.
So realistically, this year we have got some local carp fishing trips planned. We have got a syndicate that Carl is going to try and catch a 50-pounder from.
Oh, I don't know about a 50.
I've said it. He's got to do it now.
50-pounder Tope.
Yeah, it said it. It's out there. It's got to happen now. No
well,
pressure.
You keep putting these titles up, like man catches monster carp and biggest ever fish I've ever caught or seen. You know, so you've got to live up to that now.
50. Go for a 50.
And we've got a couple of other exciting carp fishing trips as well. But also we are going to put a lot of effort into our fishing tutorials channel.
Yeah.
We really want to make more content for that. Last year we made a few videos, but not as many as we hoped. So this year we're going to try and cover loads of different carp fishing approaches and tactics and rigs. And so we have videos for all those things as well.
Because a lot of new fishermen started.
Exactly.
Last year. A lot of people rediscovered angling after many years of not doing it. A lot of people bought new rod licenses. I don't know the numbers, but how many? A lot of new rod licenses were sold, and that means that there's people on the banks of the lakes who are new to it. And if we can just help one or two of those new anglers know how to attach the lead to a rig safely, or how to fish in weed or something, or anything. If they can take some little bits and pieces, basic knowledge, because we don't want to go into real deep technicalities on our tutorials channel. It's not really what we're about. We want to take people from not really knowing what to do and how to catch fish to competently going out there and catching them, and making it simple and easy to follow is really important as well. Now that there aren't a lot of fishing magazines anymore, now that you go in the shops and there's not so much done in the way of books and print, we want to fill that gap of content, help people who are just getting into it, and deliver them with the stuff they need to know as easily as possible so they can go out, catch fish and have a good time. So yeah, loads more tutorials this year.
Oh, sounds good. You can't have enough information, and you guys come across so well anyway. You're relatable, and people, they like listening to you. So, guys, that goes really quick, doesn't it?
Well, how long has it been?
It's been about half an hour.
Yeah,
Toby didn't set the clock.
Oh, he's going to hold that against me now after his dodgy start.
The reason why it ran on so long was because you did about 100 takes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was 100 takes, everybody. Okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming on the show. We should try and do something whenever in the studio, whenever this stuff clears and we get back to normal anyway. But thanks anyway.
Hopefully all goes back to normal soon. See you, man.
Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye. Right, our next guest on the show has been in the bait game for over 40 years, so he knows a little bit about bait. We're pleased to welcome on the show now, John Baker. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, it's very nice of you to ask me. In fact, I'm chuffed, really, and good to talk to you. Keep my brain active, and so, good, all good.
It sounds like a really good time to get you on the show, actually, because you said recently you've been receiving tons of emails from people asking you about bait and just wanting clarification.
Well, I have, and that's very motivating, and it's quite humbling as well, actually, because people asking questions about their favourite hobby, and that these guys are spending an awful lot of time on the bank, and they've asked me some key questions where they're going home in lockdown. They've obviously got more time, and they're making their own bait, sometimes sourcing their own powders and ingredients to make their own base mixes, and then they want to use perhaps some flavour profile, or they just want basic advice, but not only on bait but also on tactics. So it's quite good, really, because I get to hear how people are fishing and what the mood is at the moment, with some waters open, some waters closed. So yes, I wouldn't say I've been inundated, but I've had mega amount of emails, and it's certainly keeping me busy.
Why do you think people are so interested in, continually asking what you would think would be similar questions? But there always seems to be this doubt in people's mind about bait. It's all a bit of a mystery. I mean, is it that much of a mystery, really?
Well, it's more of a mystery now, I think. It's a good question, Simon. It's more of a mystery now because I think years ago there were no bait companies back in the 70s and 80s. I know that makes me sound very old, but when we started, you had to make your own bait. You had to source your own ingredients, even if it was from the local supermarket. And incidentally, you can still make some very good bait by just going to the local supermarket and whatever's on the shelves. You can definitely do that. But I think what's happened is people have been spoilt to death. We've all been spoilt to death with fantastic baits from all the wonderful bait companies that are out there. Fantastic tackle. I think last week on your previous podcast, a few of the guys were saying, in the winter time, I think Julian Cundiff said, when he first started, it was a couple of jumpers, 2 pairs of football socks, and he still froze his nuts off. And, I can remember buying army surplus clothes and still being freezing cold. So I think to answer your question, I think people are asking me because there's been a sort of, we've all been spoiled and people have been given their bait, but they don't really know what they're using and they want to know why. Why is it working? What's it doing? What am I really using? And I think that's I've opened people's eyes to that.
Right. And I mean, you've been around for ages, but you said like recently as well. I mean, you've had your eyes opened a little bit as well. It's like you've known this stuff for a long time, but you've needed clarification on certain things as well. And you were corresponding with somebody else that kind of helped you understand what you had already sort of fomented in your own mind.
Yes, yeah, I understand what you mean. Yes, I had. I was beginning to ask myself questions about my own knowledge and beginning to sort of almost not believe myself and my own mantra about all aspects of bait, whether it's nutritional recognition, which has been written about by lots of people. Do fish really think this is good? I want to eat it because I recognise it is nutritionally beneficial. What about taste? What about smell? All those sorts of things. So I had been contacted by a wonderful chap this chap's called Dr. Malcolm Berry, and he's a very clever organic chemist, but he also happens to go fishing, which is a very rare combination. These academics, they don't often waste their time sitting on a riverbank, but this guy does. He's a very good barbel angler, very good, good all-round angler, very good fly fisherman as well. And eventually, after not replying to his emails, I did, and he helped me. He put a few things into perspective where I said to him, well, why do you think this range of amino acids are better than that range? Because amino acids are the building blocks of protein. and what we're using in bait is actually very high quality ingredients, and I don't want them spoiled. So I was asking him questions like, how much do you think the boiling process spoils and denatures flavours? And he was able spoils and denatures base mixes and bait, boilies in effect. And he helped me with that. And he said, well, actually, there's been a study done on it. And because he was able to access academic papers on all these things, he found out there was a German university, a group of fishermen in Germany, who'd found this out. They'd actually tested a load of boilies, which they'd sourced from around Europe. So he was able, if you like, in a very understandable way for me, to explain and justify some of my thoughts. And I said to him, quite simply, I'm not going mad then, I was right. I was only right because I must have guessed right. And he said, well, yeah, you guessed right, but you guessed right because you probably went fishing, and if you didn't catch, something had gone wrong. And so it was a very simple test. If it doesn't catch fish, you're doing something wrong.
Do you find that a lot of your thoughts and, concerning bait are aligned with all other bait manufacturers? I mean, are you all thinking along the same sort of lines, or maybe there are some that are thinking a little bit more outside the box?
I think there are definitely some who are thinking more outside the box with regards to the massive range of ingredients that are available, and particularly with the access to the internet. Because, if you sit down in front of a computer and you Google pretty much any food product or animal product, a single ingredient, you can find it. And you can find it on health food websites, on people that do bodybuilding and fitness and Olympic athletes. Superfoods can be found and all these things. But we're putting some really excellent stuff in our bait. As a contrast to that, and to answer your question, there is a difference between the small artisan bait suppliers, and there's some cracking people out there that are making bait. They're experienced people. They've got good friends who are testing their baits for them, yes. They're probably in a bit of a minority, but the bigger companies, most of whom I know well, that's a different product. They've got good quality control, these bigger companies. We all know who they are. I think their quality control is better. So I think the consistency of the modern ready-to-go boilie that's in a freezer in a tackle shop, I think they're much better now than they were. Personally, I'm not too happy about some preservatives that are used. And I say that from the point of view of being a fishery owner. But I'm sure they're all safe. There's a lot of fisheries where perhaps they don't like using certain baits, but I don't think that's an issue really. I think people are very careful. They've done good research. But there is a difference. Yes, there is a difference between a mass-produced, well-packaged, big bait company's product, which has to make a profit for everybody. They've got staff, they've got big premises, that sort of thing. So it's going to catch fish. They're all fine, but I think there is quite a difference between that product and something that you produce fresh and make in small batches at home, and that's where I'm coming from. And I'm only coming from that area because that's what I've always done. So I don't actually see anything weird about that.
Have you always?
That makes sense.
No, why would you? You don't know any different. Have you always found that the super good quality ingredients catch more carp?
Yeah, definitely, I can answer that unequivocally.
Why is that?
Well, I suppose let's make an example. If you buy a ready-made meal in a packet in Sainsbury's or Tesco's or wherever, and it says pierce film in several places, place on a microwave dish, cook for 3 minutes, ensure the food is piping hot, and you eat it, and it's pretty good.
Sounds like most of my student meals, that does.
Yeah. But that's what they all say. Or if you open a tin, when you're fishing in your bivvy, you open a couple of tins or packets. They've all got a similar sort of taste to them. But when you go home and you've been on a session for 2 or 3 days, or been fishing in France for a week, eating bivvy food or whatever it is you've been doing, and you come back home and you've texted your wife, your mum or whoever it is and said, "Mum, can you make me my favourite meal, whatever it's going to be, macaroni cheese or roast chicken, whatever it's going to be." And you come back and you eat that fresh food that's been bought fresh, cooked fresh. It tastes different. And when you extrapolate that out to fish bait, the really top guys that are really, really good anglers, and it's funny, isn't it? Really good anglers often only accept the best bait too. And so they go to the nth degree to make sure that what they're using is the very best they can get. And why wouldn't you expect that? So a lot of the guys I know, I'm privileged to know, are very, very good anglers. A lot of them stay well below the radar. And there's something in common with all those guys. And I'm talking about some guys who are mega successful. And I've been fortunate enough to be friendly with a lot of these guys for a long time. And they make their bait the day before they go. They use it fresh and they never freeze it. If they are going to freeze it, they only freeze the bait they're going to throw in as free offerings. And they use such high quality bait that they only need a little bit of it. Well, that's what I've always done. And the original concept of the protein bait, which came from Fred Wilton back in the 1970s, was that you made very fresh bait with fresh eggs and fresh ingredients, and you used it fresh. And when people first started using these baits, which included me, we absolutely cleaned up. I mean, it was an embarrassment. It was like using the hair rig when the hair rig first came out. So in answer to your question, there is no doubt. If you can be bothered to do it, of course, because it's a lot of hassle.
So what we're kind of saying, based on that analogy, is if we throw the lesser quality bait, let's just say that goes in, a carp might see that for the first over a short period of time, that might be acceptable, but over a long period of time, quality always kind of stands the test of time.
Yes. And you don't need to chop and change either. You can pick one good recipe and stick to it and just flip round and change the attractor package in it. You could put a little bit of powder attractor package in, shrimp, GLM, Balashin, any spices, that sort of thing. So you can have a relatively fresh, good quality base mix powder and just change 2 or 3% of that with some extra different ingredients, but the main core of the recipe has stayed the same.
Right.
And as I say, most people can't be bothered to do that. What I have simply done over the years with the base mixes I do is I create the base mix and leave it up to the individual to put what package they want to it. But they know the base mix is good, but they still have to roll and make their own bait. I would actually add something to that, Simon. And the thought only occurred to me the other day, sort of in the bath where all the good thoughts come,
Always.
Topping up the hot water with my toes, I'm probably, although I'm a small artisan bait company and I've been dipping in and out of it because it's not been my full-time job for years, it's a hobby business and I love doing it. My main job has been in finance and I've semi-retired from that now. So the last year has been great because I've got my mojo back on doing bait, and it just happens to coincide with people having more time perhaps to make the bait at home. But the thought I had was, it's a bit crazy this, but I'm probably the only bait company that doesn't make boilies. You can't buy boilies from me.
No, I know. I've bought bait off you. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
I'm privileged.
Yeah. I bought bait off of you. Yeah. No, I've always known it's good quality bait, and but it's true, isn't it? It's true. That's so unusual nowadays. That I watched you because you've set up a YouTube channel recently, and some of the stuff you're talking about is so interesting. You were talking about flavors and how one flavor, like strawberry, you're talking about strawberry, you can make that flavor out of totally different ingredients, have a completely different flavor profile. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. This was something I've known for many years. I was given a book, and the book about 20 years ago I was given this book, and it's dated about 1950. So it's quite an old technology book. And a flavor company that closed was clearing out its cupboards. And they said, "Oh, we've got some old books here, John. Would you like them?" And they said, "We've got a couple left." And they posted me these books, and they had all these recipes in them, most of which you wouldn't use now, but the principle stays the same. So I looked at all the popular flavours that were in there that we were using in carp bait. So there was a cream bait recipe, a cream flavoured recipe, a strawberry flavoured recipe, a plum flavoured recipe, all the different recipes with all the aroma ingredients listed down the left-hand column. And then it had, for example, with strawberry, it had 10 different types of strawberry listed across the top. So strawberry flavour number 1, number 2, number 3. And then down the side, 38 different aroma ingredients. But then when you went down and across, some of the strawberry flavour ingredients used in recipe number 1 didn't appear at all in recipe number 10. And I just thought, well, that was an epiphany. Obviously, subsequently, over the preceding 20 odd years, I spoke to flavourists, chemists, that sort of thing, and they explained to me all the different little notes that various very clever chemicals can give to a flavour. So you could buy from one company, for example, that I deal with now, they sell 600 different types of strawberry flavour.
That's amazing, isn't it?
600, wow.
Yeah.
600 different types.
For different applications through different industries and...
Yeah, you might be making yogurt, so it's got to be natural, it's got to be food compliant. They might be supplying flavours to America, which have got different food regulations to the UK. This is a huge company.
Wow.
Really huge. So when I started to look at the recipes that worked, there were common denominators in them. Because I can remember Rod Hutchinson and I having a conversation back in the mid-'80s where he looked at a maple flavour, which happens to be, in my opinion, one of the best carp flavours available. And maple flavour has got fenugreek in it. That's an oleo resin. So it comes from the sap and the bark and the leaves of plants and the roots of plants. And that's just one ingredient. So, this maple flavour has probably got 24 or 25 ingredients in it. And when I looked at them, there were still some more common denominators. So I just thought there's a lot more to all this than really meets the eye. So I've just kept sticking at it, dipped in and out of the technology and learned what does work and what doesn't. And very often by luck, you find out what is successful, but you can soon find out which isn't. What isn't successful. And it's that marriage of base mix powders and flavours, most of which now, and most of the emails I get now are from people who because it's available on the internet, they're putting too much of everything in one recipe. Less is best. Right. Less is best. Let the base mix do more of the work and make sure you don't use too much flavour, because the carp have such incredibly delicate senses of smell, thousands of times more sensitive than a human.
What struck me about flavours as well is based on what you were discussing, was that to get to a natural flavour, you would need so many ingredients. Are you saying that the more ingredients there are in a flavour, the closer it is to a natural flavour? Yes, and the reason for that is because in a natural flavour, so if you take something like pick any fruit, a raspberry, a strawberry, a peach, a plum, you've got when you eat it and you bite into that fruit, and before you even eat it, you smell it. So you get the smell of the fruit. That has ingredients in it, that smell. There are ingredients in the smell, which they can capture cleverly. Then there are ingredients and taste in the skin. So if you peel an apple, it's a different taste than if you left the peel on. And then you've got the actual flesh of the fruit, which is packed with masses of different identifiable chemicals. And so creating a flavour that matches the entire experience of the smell of the apple, the smell of the peach, the smell of the plum, the taste of it,
and then creating something that will perform and work in a fish bait, that won't boil out when you boil it, that will still smell when you reel it in after 12 hours on a winter night in freezing cold water. We actually treat our flavours very harshly. And so, producing a fishing flavour is probably really difficult if you started from scratch. Start from scratch. Where do I go? And I think, that's an aspect that fascinates me, and I'm still learning about it.
Go on and tell us the standout flavour for you. Is there a I know you like plum, and you were talking about plum's one of your favourites.
Yeah, well, I was very lucky with finding plum flavour because I dealt with a company who are no longer in business because they were bought. They were a company called Bushbo Callan, and they were based in Walthamstow in West London, in East London, and purely by luck, I happened to be able to get some flavours from them, and this is completely true. You won't believe where I got my flavours from this company by opening an account through Boots the Chemist.
Did you?
And that is completely true, because I was 22, 23. I didn't have a business account. I was living at home with my mum and dad, and I went to the company and said, "Can I buy this flavour from you?" In actual fact, the first flavour I bought from them was a salmon flavour, which I later gave to Rod, and he sold it as pucker salmon. That was the original pucker salmon.
Wow.
And so I went to Boots the Chemist in my high street, and I happened to know the manager, who's a friend of the family. He said, "Oh, hi, John, how are you?" And I said, "Has Boots got an account with a company in East London called Bushbo Callan?" And he said, "I don't know, I'll have to find out," because there was no computers then. So next week, he phoned me and he said, "We have got an account with them. And can you believe it? This is completely true. I bought flavours initially, before I could open a business account with them, through Boots the Chemist." You couldn't do that now.
No.
So you asked me about go-to flavours.
Your favourite flavour?
If I could only pick one, that original maple.
That's exactly what
the original maple.
Regan was saying the same, wasn't he?
Was he? Yeah, he was.
Pete Regan's he's an advocate of maple as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's got to be the right one though. It's got to be the right one.
Right. Did you say that you've got your flavours are licensed as well?
Yeah, most of my flavours are either created by me and a confidentiality agreement has been signed, or I own the IPR, or I've bought the flavour. Actually bought the recipe, so it's a bit weird for me. I actually have the recipe on an Excel spreadsheet. I send it to a flavour company who, providing it's compliant, because it has to be, all the ingredients used in the flavour have to be registered with FEMA, Food Ingredient Registration Company, which they are, and that means that they can be distributed. At the moment, not to America. You can't send anything to America, but you can throughout Europe. So you can still, despite of Brexit and the problems, you can send flavours, liquid flavours to Europe. Anyway, all my flavours have to be compliant. So, yes, I do own the rights to them. And that's taken me a long time. And in some cases with Plum, for example, a lot of money. I've also got the original peach flavour, which I brought out in 1992. And after a lot of requests, I'm bringing that back. That's out in about a month's time. And that was a great flavour. Some of the older guys watching will remember it as Peach A2, it used to be called, Peach A2, and it was in a powder form. So this one is going to be in a liquid form. And it's the same recipe. Yeah, great flavour. So, but if Pete Regan said he likes maple, and if I could pick one, it would be one, but also I do really, really love that plum.
You see sales of a plum and maple now.
That's it, through the roof.
I know. Funnily enough, I don't mix them. They don't seem to work together. They just work one or the other.
Yeah. You mentioned Brexit as well. Do you see problems with importing bait into the country, bait ingredients, that sort of thing as a consequence now of all this?
Yes. There are some ingredients that come from Europe into the UK, which are category 3 animal food grade ingredients. They're called Cat 3. They don't just come from Europe, but they come from, maybe the Far East, that sort of thing. I bring a shrimp extract in through a friend in the trade, who an ingredients company, who they had to bring it in on their DEFRA license. So I got a feeling there's going to be problems next time we order that one. I think more of the problem is the bureaucracy that is currently in place and hasn't been sorted out yet with us sending bait, whether it's finished boilies or ingredients, powders, that sort of thing, across the channel out to France. I don't just mean, and that includes me, I've got trips booked to go to France fishing in June. I go every year, 2 or 3 times a year. And at the moment, I can't take my own bait. And if I can't take my own bait to France, I won't want to go. I just, it's part of the fun for me is making my bait the week before, getting all excited and going. You know? And that's going to apply to lots of people. So I think DEFRA, I do know for a fact, I've been in contact with a few people, that the Angling Trust is talking to DEFRA. They're talking to the DEFRA department in government. Government are lobbying all the people, their friends. They always say friends, don't they? I'm not too sure if they are their friends. But they're talking to the guys in Brussels about getting a subcategory created for recreational angling bait. But I wouldn't hold your breath that that's going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
I think it's going to take a few months because they're just so bureaucratic and so slow. I'm hoping that something will happen within 3 months, but it is going to disrupt the bigger boys, the main lines of this world, the maybe the sticky baits and the big companies that have got fantastic deals abroad, distribution abroad, that sort of thing. I haven't spoken to them individually, but
I guess it's too early at the moment for them to have noticed a change.
I think they're swamped. They're swamped with this bureaucracy. I mean, when you fill in a customs form, when I send baits out, flavours mostly at the moment, to Germany, France, Austria, all sorts. I've got customers I've dealt with in Europe for a long time, and there's a lawyer I deal with in Munich. He's a smashing guy, and he goes carp fishing. A bit unusual to get a lawyer who goes carp fishing. He speaks perfect English, and he buys 4 or 5 flavours from me a year, makes his own bait at home, and he asked me lots of questions about it, and he said that the German government is looking at it and thought that it would be resolved. So that's quite good news from a fully qualified lawyer. But when I send, I do it through the post office because they've got a global arrangement. You have to fill in a customs form, and on the customs form it says whether it's a gift, whether it's a business transaction, whether it's a sample, and it has to put the sender's address on, and you have to list what it is. And what I do is I put on, when it's liquid flavours, which is all I'm sending abroad at the moment, I tick the box and I say it's a lure.
Right.
And if you put down that it's a lure, it's not categorised as a food. So you can get away with it. And so far I've probably sent 50 or 60 parcels abroad since Christmas, and I've had no problems.
Wow. Well, that's a good bit of advice.
Yeah, isn't it just?
Yeah. Something else I noticed, John, I saw this on Carp Feed actually. There's a lot of these old flavours being sold on eBay at the moment. Monster crab, the old Hutchie flavours and stuff. Good value for money?
Oh, look, everyone's entitled to spend their money on whatever they want, aren't they, Simon? But wow, please, guys, don't buy these old flavours. I would advise you not to. I can't tell people what to spend their money on, but there's a problem when you buy old flavours, particularly the ones that are in polythene or polypropylene bottles, which most of these are. They're not in glass bottles, but it's irrelevant if they were. Most flavours that are sold, fishing bait flavours, they will have oxidised once they're more than about 3 years old. Oxidised means they've had contact with air, because I doubt that the top of the bottle has remained, on the bottle since the day it was bought. It's probably been taken off, partly used or smelt hundreds of times. And you can often see these old flavours where the bottle is drawn in. It's become misshapen, slightly misshapen. Also, the content reacts with the polythene. So I think if you were having a conversation with a naturalist, like David Attenborough or somebody like that, and he would say, well, why give our cherished carp, some flavour that's 5, 6, 10, 15 years old in some cases, put it into a nice fresh ingredient, and then they're going to eat it. That seems a bit strange to me. So I think it's potentially a little bit dangerous. I'm not scaremongering here, but I think if you can afford to spend a lot of money on an old flavour that's been sitting around with a famous name on it, and some people have been buying my old flavours, then don't spend a lot less money and just buy a fresh bottle from your favourite supplier, whoever that may be. That would be my advice.
Have bait companies never felt the desire to put, a use by date on the bottle? Does that not work?
Well, we're not a regulated industry, are we?
Right, so that's why, yeah.
That's why.
So nobody, until somebody like you comes along and says, look, this stuff's oxidised, it's not as effective, until you come along, nobody really knows, do they, I guess? And they think that you can just use it forever.
Well, they do. And this was another question I asked my chemist friend, Malcolm. I said to him, can you explain a bit more about oxidising? And well, he went off on various tangents, which, lost me completely within the first few minutes. But if you look, for example, at some of the ingredients that go into these products, they're quite delicate organic materials. In fact, most of them are quite delicate organic materials. And so they're bound to go off. I mean, if you eat a stale biscuit, for example, you immediately know, and you would say, oh, these biscuits are stale. And it's just the same. It's as simple as that. It's just the same for flavour. Mm. And the big endorsement on that was when I found some old flavour myself, and I tried to get those old, I won't say what they were. There were a couple of old flavours I found in a cupboard that I put into glass bottles. And they were brilliant. Actually, I will say what one of them was. It's a flavour called grilled bacon. And I can't get it anymore because the company won't make it. And I keep getting asked for this same flavour. And I had some. And I tried to get it copied. And I sent it to a friend of mine who's a master of flavours. There's another guy I know, another friend. And he is a very, very clever guy. He helped me redo my plum flavour, which in actual fact, he originally invented it in the first place. So he just looked up in his book and redid the same recipe. So that was good. And he said, the sample you've sent me of this flavour, John, has degenerated and oxidised so badly, I can't match all the nuances and all the little subtle variances that are in it. So I can't make it for you. It's gone. It's blown. It's blown.
Yeah. Well, you've put that one to bed anyway. I'll put all my old flavours back then. I won't be putting those on eBay. Imagine 250 quid for like monster crab or something. That sounds like good money. John, we could talk for ages. I really would like you to come back into the studio. I hope that the audience are going to enjoy this. And if they do, we want you to come back in the studio and really get into the bait stuff more, because I know that people are interested in all this stuff. And we haven't really got enough time to go into it into too much detail. Plus, you're old fishing as well, because I know that we've fished similar places in the past as well, which would be good to get into. So
it would.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much for coming on the show. Anyway, it's been good listening to you.
Thank you for asking me. Cheers, guys.
Thanks. Right, our final guest on the show. It's someone I'm sure all of you guys have heard of, from Monster Carp and from Korda. Tom Dove, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Si?
Really good, mate. Enjoying these shows?
Am I, do you say?
Well, I was going to say I was enjoying them, but are you enjoying them? Have you watched them?
Yes, is the answer.
I watched a bit of Damo's one. Yeah, no, I've seen them, yeah.
You've been a busy man, though, haven't you, recently?
Well, recently, not so much, because obviously we've been back into lockdown, which is a bit of a nightmare. But the back end of last year, we were still able to film, so we were out and about fishing and getting the shows done for next year.
And you guys had some epic sessions as well, didn't you? I cannot believe some of the fish that you caught on those shows. I mean, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise, wasn't it, having to go back to Crete Lakes in the end?
Yeah, definitely. We went to, because of travel restrictions, we ended up doing a whole series in France, because if we were going to go from France to Croatia and to, I don't know where else we were going to go, Slovenia or something, there was too much time that we had to quarantine in between to manage to get back out there. So what we decided to do was do basically a French special. And on one of the trips we went out to France, we stayed there for 2.5, 3 weeks and actually filmed 2 shows in one go. And that trip we went back to Crete Lakes because we had to come home from there in March because of the original lockdown. So we went from Crete Lakes to another lake called Trois Îles. And then 3 weeks previous to that, we went to a lake called Carp, which is south of France, very close to Cassian, actually. And yeah, literally all of the trips were unreal. We all caught a 70-pounder. I caught a PB. I had the 2 best trips of my lifetime, one at Carp and one at Crete Lakes. So yeah, it was a good autumn, actually.
Would you have been filming there if it wasn't for lockdown and stuff? I mean, in hindsight, it was a good time to be out filming.
Yeah, it was. I mean, well, like I said, we were meant to be filming at Crete Lakes in the beginning. And actually, the first time we went to Crete Lakes, I'd got something going there and I really didn't want to leave. But obviously, now looking back in hindsight, it was good that we went back when we did. We went in November. The fish were massive. And they were just really feeding. So we just had the trip of a lifetime, really.
Hang on, you got something going. Can you tell us what that was?
Sorry?
What did you get going? What did you find?
Well, I had my swim going at the beginning in March when we first went. I think was there 3 nights. I think I had 7 fish or something, and 3 or 4 of them were on the final morning. I'd built the spot up. But then when we went back, I don't know. I can't actually. I've sent you the list of fish. I can't remember how many fish I had in the end. Was it 70-something fish I had in a week out of Lake One?
You caught 76 fish. When you sent me that, I thought it was between all of you. It's like 76.
There's something else that happened with that list as well, wasn't there, Si? Do you want to share that?
Yeah, we made a bit of an error there, Davey. Go on, Toby.
So I read the list, Tom, and he was so over the moon. He was so excited. He's like, Tom's had 7 70s. I went, sorry? He was like, yeah, look, he's had 7 70s.
We said that we weren't going to talk about this.
And what he'd done, he'd actually, as you'd numbered said fish and got to 70, he thought you'd had 7 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, what a fucking idiot.
So the last 7 fish that you caught were all 70s.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, God.
Mate, it was an easy mistake to make. I mean, easy.
Because they were all listed next to them.
Yeah, they were listed.
You are a twit, aren't you?
Yeah,
we might have to get a little screenshot of that list just so everybody's fully aware of it.
No, I'm going to show you now.
Do it.
Oh, it's too bright.
It's too bright. We'll get a little screenshot to overlay that. Absolutely.
But you caught 170.
Oh, you can see.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So that's hard to tell. It's just 1 to 70, and then a waist next to me. It's hard to get that.
What do you expect?
Well, exactly. I do expect that, which is worrying.
Oh dear. No, we rectified it quickly, mate. We noticed it quickly as well, didn't we?
Anyway.
Why do you keep saying we?
We are a team. We're a collective on this show. So as soon as you got to Crete then, mate, I mean, did it just kick off straight away then?
Yeah, pretty much. I had first choice of swim, and I picked a swim called Swim 3, which does command quite a lot of the water. Quite a lot of water, not of the water. And I already knew the spots from before, obviously, because I was fishing there like 6 months previous. And I also hedged my bets and sort of spread some rods out elsewhere. And it was actually the rods that I'd spread elsewhere that I got the most bites to begin with. And I ended up reeling in the rods that were on the spots from the previous session. And yeah, because I found these new spots, I was just fishing 1 rod to each spot, and I was getting so many bites from the off that I just tried to build on them spots and try to keep the fish feeding there, basically. So I didn't put too many rods on the spots. I fed an awful lot, and just kept them there. So I was just like, from the off, I was just catching 60 pounders. I think I caught like 12 60s. I think I had 29 fish over 50 pounds in a week. Like 12 of which were over 60 and a new PB of 70 pounds.
Wow, that's great. We were debating about this as well. Have many anglers, had a session like that in France or anywhere in Europe?
I don't think so. I don't know anyone that's had a trip like that, to be honest. I think the lads that have fished Rainbow Lake have probably had trips like that, and maybe better, because the fish are plentiful and huge in there as well. So, but yeah, out of Crete, that was actually a lake record for the amount of fish that were caught in a week out of there. In fact, it beat the match record as well, where there's normally 2 people in a swim. So I was proud of that.
It beat that as well. Bloody hell! And bait wise, were you doing anything out of the ordinary, Dovey, or were you just being yourself really, and just it's all easy?
No, we were. They allow maggots in on the winter rules there, so you're from November to March, I think it is, and we made sure that we were the first week that you're allowed to use them, because obviously they're a dangerous bait, and the first week of being able to use them is always the best. So obviously we made the most of that. But yeah, I was just using straight maggots, really. Maggots. By the end of the trip, I was having to use casters because I run out of maggots. It wasn't making a difference, really. I was using 3 or 4 spods of maggots over the top of a really simple rig with a ball of maggots on the end. So it's like a spinner style rig where I tied the boom directly to the swivel with no ring on it, and then just fished like a size 4 crank, and then a big ball of maggots sitting on top of a little tiny bit of cork, just on the deck that was just sort of wafting up a little bit. It was with things like that. It's more down to how you get them feeding on the spot than the rigs and that you've got on.
So how'd you get them feeding?
It's how you just got to get them feeding. Yeah. And once I think I had a 50 pounder I had 2 50 pounders on the drop. So literally the lead hit the floor, and as soon as it hit the floor, the fish took it, and the rod went in my hand before I got to put it on the alarm. So when that's happening, everything's right. Obviously the rig's working first time because there was no chance of it going in 2 mouths then, and the rig's working better because you've got them feeding so ravenously that they've just thrown caution to the wind completely, and you get super quick bites.
What was going on with your colleagues as well then? Were they catching like you?
No, it wasn't. I think Neil ended up having into double figures, maybe 12 or 13 fish. I think Ali had 25 in the end.
Right.
But because the fish were in between me and Ali, really. Neil was off to the side. And I decided to fish slightly shorter of the middle. I was only 50 yards out. And because I only fished it with 2 rods, you're allowed to fish 4 there. Because I fished 2 rods and I fished the rods really short, all the fish were doing was pushing 10 or 20 yards past where my rigs were, which really, in essence, was still my water. So by doing it that way, I kept them in front of me for a week. If I was to have fished the middle with 4 rods, then fish would have been gone within probably 2 days. Mm. So, I managed to keep the fish in front of me, which obviously meant that they weren't heavily in front of the other boys, which is your goal, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Bit of a competition. You like a bit of competition, mate, don't you, as well?
Yeah. No, it wasn't necessarily lose hands there. You just...
Oh, God.
She's joining us on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd come in a second, talk about being pregnant.
She's pregnant?
Oh yeah, actually I should have said that. I've not said. She said not tell anyone on social media, and now I've told everyone on the podcast.
Mate, don't worry. We only get 25 to 50,000 people watching this. Oh. It's fine, mate. No one's going to know.
Can we congratulate you or?
Oh, she's going to be fuming.
Are you in the doghouse?
Is it a boy or a girl?
You know. We don't know actually.
I
really wanted to find out. I can't believe I've done.
Oh well, congratulations anyway.
We've got an exclusive,
That's
mate.
An exclusive insight. Wow.
Have I not told you, Si?
No. You haven't even told me you were moving house.
Yeah, I'm moving house.
So how long has she been pregnant for?
She's been pregnant for a while. She's due in May.
Wow.
Crikey, you've kept that
cool.
quiet.
Yeah, well, fair play.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to tell everyone sooner or later.
Well, he's told everyone now, isn't he?
Even though I've done this, I don't think it's. Well, I can't believe I've done that. We don't. It's not really news that you like to share with everyone on social media and that. So
yeah,
it's one of them things. Can we change the subject?
Yeah, we'll change the subject, mate. So that show was going out as a 2-part special. You're going to gel the two together? How's that all going to work?
No, it's not. It wasn't that. It's going to go out as 2 separate shows.
Yep.
The Crete Lakes is one show, and then the Twas that we were there on the same trip is a separate show. We just decided to film at the same time, so we didn't have to come back. It was tiresome actually. By the end, you did want to come home, but it was such fantastic fishing. The best thing about the whole Alton's fishing as well was the fishing was so different. Each lake we were going to. Carsays was like, I don't know, 300 acres. You're fishing out like 180, 190 yards out to the middle with a bait boat.
I was going to say, your casting has really come on.
Yeah. I'll probably get there with a lead and braid, but not that far of a rig. So we went from there fishing a big wild water with this big, dark, beautiful old French fishing. Windswept place, mega, loads of weed, bit of a nightmare to fish, but amazing at the same time. One of the, probably my best trip yet. And then we went from there to Crete Lakes, which is obviously a commercial, but one of the best commercials in France, if not the best. For size of fish. And so we went from there to fishing 50 yards out with maggots. Then from going to Crete to Trois Îles, which was, I was fishing like 150 yards out in the middle, spomming with boilies. So there was just a real difference in the style of fishing all the way across.
Does that fatigue stuff with you guys? Do you ever see that kind of come across on film a little bit? Because it's a long time to be out. You do get tired, and we all know what it's like when you've been on the bank for a while. You do lose your effectiveness a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think we ever lose our effectiveness fishing wise, because I always want to make the most of my time. So we're trying really hard. And especially like that second week at Trois Îles, I'd hardly slept. A couple of the nights at Crete, I didn't even get in my bag for the whole night. So you'd gone through the whole night, So we were tired, but because the rewards are there to be had, it's very, very difficult to not put that rod back out when you get one at night, because you think, you could catch a 70 or 80 pounder. So it was full guns blazing until the very end.
And I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say here, but when you're catching a lot of fish, do you just think, do you know what? I don't want to catch any more. I want to rest from this. Or do you just think, keep coming? Yeah,
I did feel like that at Crete in the end. Just because I let Toby play in quite a few, and I'd let the cameramen have a couple of goes.
Just share them about.
They were catching 50 pounders on my.
Does that actually happen? Sorry, I want to jump in. Does that actually happen? Do you just go, oh, fuck's sake, the buzzer's gone again?
Yeah, a couple of times. You're just so tired. I think one day I'd like 15 in the morning, and these are not like I'm talking about just literally the morning, the daylight hours, and there was like however many had 10 at night or whatever. So you're just knackered, absolutely knackered. So at that stage, because we were trying for the story of the show and for your own for your own fishing, you want to catch a bigger one. So it was like it was more important for me to unhook the fish that had just been landed, get the rod back out to get another chance. And if sometimes I was picking up the rod and it didn't feel like a big one, and I had another rod to put out, so I'd let Toby play it in, because I knew it was a small one and it wasn't any good for the show. So Toby would play that in. I'd get the other rod ready, put the rod back out, put the spods back out. Toby would land that fish, and then I'd be set ready to go for another bite that could possibly have been the 80 pounder. So
the goalposts are always changing. Then it might start off, you just want to catch a few for camera, and then it's like Ali's like, right, no, we need a 70, or Gary, we need a 70 pounder for this show now.
Yeah, it's not. Well, yeah, the goalposts always change. Yeah, of course. So we went there thinking it would be good if we caught 10 fish in a week each, because that is a good week on Crete. And it would be good if we caught a 60 pounder, but that was all done and done. I think we'd caught like 20 fish by the first morning, and including a 70. A new PB for me. So it was like, right, the goalposts are changing. We need to catch an 80-pounder now. And for my own story, and for like the thing that I was targeting to get was to try and beat that record of 72 fish in a week by the match boys. So that's what I was gunning for all of the way through.
We want to find out, don't we? Has anyone actually had a session like that? You can send us some your messages on Instagram. Have you caught more fish than that in Europe or in France or anywhere? You know, that's
yeah. Because you were saying that's got to be the most successful session. What, by UK angler in Europe?
Possibly.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Are you worried as well, Debbie? Sorry, are you worried a little bit because we've seen some comments recently on you know what YouTube's like. People, there's envy, isn't there, amongst some people? You know, when they see people catching like that. Are you worried that it gives carp fishing a bit of a misconception when you see these guys on the lake and they're just catching, you know, so sort of willfully on the lake?
What do you mean when it's too easy?
Yeah, when it just looks too easy and you're seeing, you know, big fish getting caught one after the other like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're always aiming to catch as many big fish as you possibly can, aren't you? And that's not the type of fishing I would do all the time. Fishing's different every time I go for me. It's like I actually enjoy it when it's difficult. I enjoy the Cassian trips and the Carcez trips more than them, but I still really enjoy doing that. You know, I wouldn't do it all of the time, and I wouldn't recommend someone to go and do that style of fishing all the time and just, you know, treating them like commodities and just trying to get through them. But that's quite fun. It is quite fun sometimes. So I don't care what anyone thinks really. It's like I enjoy doing it. There's loads of big fish to be caught, and a bit of variety in your fishing I think is the key thing.
And Carr says as well, so a completely different type of venue.
Yeah, so different. Yeah, there was only like 100 carp in there. I don't know how many are in Crete, maybe 300 or 400, I think. But it's only 100 carp in 300 acres. Just far more difficult. But that again, there we said between us, it would be good if we caught. I think we said between us, if we caught 10 fish and managed to get a 50, maybe a 60, it would be good. But I don't know how many. Let me just have a look on my phone. Can you remember how many I caught out of Carcez?
Yeah, Carcez was was it 50 odd?
Mid-20s?
Yeah.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Do you know what? My screen's just gone off. Yeah. No, it was an awesome session. Is that's day fishing only, Devi, or can you can night fish there as well?
Okay, so yeah. You're not allowed to night fish. You're only allowed to night fish of the weekend. So we night fished at the weekend. In fact, one of the nights I could fish, I didn't even actually fish in the end because it was best to get the rods out first light in the morning fresh. But you're not allowed to fish there at night during the week, but we had permission to stay on the lake in the week.
Right.
So it was basically day fishing. Even the nights we were able to fish, I didn't really catch anything at night. I think I caught 1 or 2 on the final night and maybe 1 on the first weekend, but it was more prolific in the day, like at 10, 11, 12 o'clock. That was the time I was getting the bites out. And I had this amazing spot. So I had first choice to swim again, actually. That was picked out of a hat, which was a bit of luck. And I was fishing on sort of a point, and at about 140 yards out from the point, under water, there was an old riverbed. And on that riverbed, there was an old bridge that went over the river, and just past the bridge there was this big flat area of sand, and it went to a big wall of weed that was sitting smack bang in the center of the main area of the lake. It was just like the spot of all spots. And I was just fishing one rod to it, but fishing it super efficiently. And that rod done most of my bites. It was just the perfect spot. It was where they were showing when we first got there. And again, because I didn't overfish it, and I was just trickling bites consistently and not putting too much bait out, but keeping them interested, I managed to carry on getting bites all the way through the week on that rod.
Yeah, that's. I noticed that we talked about this before as well, haven't we? That's the way you tend to like to fish, isn't it? You think going in there with a lot of bait on these heavily stocked waters and kind of sitting there and tramming the rods up, but that's not the way you do it, is it? It's more trickling it in and fishing it like that. Was that a known spot in the lake? Were people fishing that or previously?
No, not at all. It was a known area, but people I think people tend to fish up to that riverbed just before it, because it was quite weedy, the lake, and there was quite clear areas along the faces of each of the sides of the riverbed. But the spot I was fishing was too far from the other side to fish, really. And I think people that normally fish from the side I was fishing would normally just fish this side of the riverbed and wouldn't chance going over where the bridge is just in case they got cut off. But it turned out I didn't once get cut off from the bridge. But the fish were coming up in the water and I was getting them in. I lost a few in weed, but it was hard to get away from that.
Yeah, I bet. When are these coming out anyway? Summer this year time?
Yeah, it'll be summer as normal. Yeah, July time, I think. They're actually being edited today. I was speaking to Al on the phone earlier, and he's been going through the first edit of that cast edge trip actually. So it's all in the process now, Si.
Well, when you guys came on before, and Ali was saying, wasn't he? It's like the next one's got to be better. It's got to be better, and it sounds like this series could, is another step up.
Yeah, I mean the reality is that France has got the biggest fish, isn't it? And we got to go to 3 venues that all have huge carp in, and it just worked for us each time. We didn't fail on each trip, so we managed to make it even better this time, which is just ridiculous, really, considering how good the other shows have been for big fish. We can't. At the end of each trip, we're like, I can't believe that's just happened again. Like, it's just ridiculous what's happened. But it's obviously someone looking over us for them trips, I think.
Yeah, look forward to watching those. And domestically and, in this country, obviously through lockdown, what have you been up to? Have you been fishing around this country a little bit as well?
No, what you mean over the winter?
Over the winter and since we last saw you as well.
Oh, right, since last saw you, bloody hell, yeah. Since last saw you. Yeah, I fished, do you know what, mate? I'm getting mixed up with the years now.
Getting mixed up with the years? It's 1986.
Last year, no, I'm trying to think where did I fish last year? Bayswater,
yeah.
Bayswater was last year, yeah. So I actually started fishing in the spring on a big lake that's only got 10 carp in. And I had a bit of a disastrous spring on there because I fished a lot, really enjoyed that fishing, and actually lost what I think was the biggest fish in the lake, because it was due and it was on the right spot and it was on the right wind, and a bit of a nightmare that was.
When was the last time that was caught?
That fish ended up getting caught. It gets caught every spring, that fish, and it didn't get caught that spring, but I lost something that I thought might have been it. So I was depressed for about 3 weeks after that.
What made you think? What made you think it was that one then?
Well, like I said, it was the right spot that it gets caught from. It was on the right wind. The other big common that got caught that same day. It was on the right moon phase. It was it. I'm telling you, it was it. But it was just one of them things. So I carried on fishing that lake for a little while, and all that time I had a Bayswater ticket, and I'd sort of said to myself that I wasn't going to go over Bayswater because I was enjoying this fishing so much at this other lake. But it was just days only, that lake. I was just a bit fed up of doing days, and I thought I fancied going to do a night somewhere. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go over Bayswater. It was in the middle of the summer. I had a bit of a plan for Bays anyway, and I went over there and just clicked with it straight away. I think I had 3 or 4 that trip. And then what I ended up doing was fishing a block of about a month, sort of 3 days a week. So I think I did about 12. What did I do? About 10 nights I think I've done. And just really got to grips over there. I caught a new PB common, 46 pounds something, I think. And a load of the other ones as well. So I really enjoyed it. I was fishing casters on a little tiny gravel spot. Again, very different to the style of fishing I was doing in the spring. Fishing a little snaggy bay with really small amounts of bait. And I just got to know a swim really well. And caught a few divers. I'll send Toby some pictures so you can put them up over this. But mega fish, and I'm actually really pleased I got to fish that lake, because unfortunately I had a little bit of a little bit of a fish kill after I left, and the fish that I was fishing for, the coconut common, that unfortunately died. So I'm glad I got that little spell on there, because it's a mega lake, and the fish I caught, they're all still in there. But it was just sort of a bit of a moment in time that I really enjoyed in the summer.
Yeah, shame about the coconut common, wasn't it, as well? I mean, that was pretty well-known fish, wasn't it? Everyone wanted to catch that if they were fishing there.
Yeah, it was a shame as well, because I was so in the zone over there as well. I just thought I was going to catch that, but it actually died sort of around the time I was on there. So it obviously wasn't very well, and it hadn't got caught while I was there. So it is a shame, but it just happens that they're fish, aren't they?
Yeah.
Every lake you go to, there's always that chance of them passing. But what does happen, which is always mental to me, is that when the biggest fish dies in the lake, something else takes its place and grows really quickly. So I'm sure that will happen at Bayswater, because it's a mega water. It's got really good water quality, and the fish just get big in there. So I can imagine probably that common I call that pin scale, that'll probably be £50 before you know it.
You're going to carry on fishing there?
No.
Right.
No, I think I caught most of them. I caught most of the ones I wanted to catch in them few weeks. So it was really, it was, like I said, just a bit of a moment in time. I went there, enjoyed it, and don't feel the need. I'm not one of these people that just sticks on a lake until I've caught everything out of there. I'll fish there until I stop enjoying my fishing. And I enjoyed that summer so much. I just sort of left content, really. Just thought that was nice. That was enjoyable. And go and fish somewhere else now. So I've got a different ticket for this year coming up, and I'll go and fish there instead. Yeah,
keep it fresh, mate. You don't need to. Coming from someone that's fished the same lake for the last 10 years and doesn't know anywhere else. But
do you call that fishing, what you do then, Simon?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, serious fishing, that is. Yeah, you'd learn something there. Yeah. So you're moving house at the moment, mate, as well. There's a bit going on, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. It's been a bit of a it's been a nice thing for me to concentrate on, really, because lockdown's not really good for your mental state, is it? But I'm buying another house, not too far from where I live now, and I'm getting loads of building work done in that house while I'm still living here. So it's been something to concentrate on over the last few weeks. And I'm hoping to exchange tomorrow and move next week. So I'll have to get all of that done. So yeah, just trying to keep busy, mate. That's the main thing, isn't it? And not waste any time. Yeah,
you said about your mental state. Are you someone that needs to constantly, work on that, or do you find yourself always like motivated and busy enough, and just get on with things?
I'm always motivated to do stuff, but as long as you're allowed to do stuff, we haven't been allowed to do anything, have we? So it's been difficult. But like I said, because that house is close to me, I've been able to go over there and just look over the building work and just concentrate on that a little bit. But it's been tough, isn't it? It's been really tough. You have shit days, really, when you. Like we talked before in the podcast before, like progress and feeling like you have a purpose and doing something worthwhile. And when all of that's stripped from you just to sit at home, it's just utter madness, this whole situation, isn't it? So I'm just praying that we get out of it soon. Yeah, we can all get back to our normal lives in the spring, because I'm sort of getting past it at the moment, because I'm thinking, well, January's a bit shit anyway. It doesn't really matter. You normally sit in the house anyway. So I thought just get all everything in order through Jan and Feb, and then hopefully the world has some normality back in the spring and we can go and jump at it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it won't be long. I mean, we're like that in this country anyway, aren't we? We're always waiting for, to get rid of the winter, but yeah, more so at the moment. So yeah, definitely. How are you doing anyway, Si? Yeah, well, we've been here the whole time, mate, haven't we? No, I'm the same as you. I need to be doing stuff as well, mate. And actually, last year I didn't make the most of going fishing or anything like that. I do a lot of yoga. I try and do yoga at home and do that stuff. But I need to be active. I like doing stuff in the outdoors and that. And yeah, it's been a weird year. And you would think as well, having this amount of time to be able to sit and think about things, and you think think about what you want to do to occupy yourself. But it's been really, really difficult. Yeah, it's. But yeah, it is hard. You find out what you really enjoy as well. I've a couple of times I've sort of thought, well, I've got more time here. I'll sit down and try and write a book or do some more reading, and really, I know that I like to be outdoors. I do. I like to be fishing. I like to have the freedom to go and walk around the lake. I like to go and have a game of golf. You like to just go out for a drink with your mates once a month or whatever. But yeah.
Losing that sort of liberty is it's been quite difficult. The sad thing is now is we've actually got used to it as well, and
I haven't got used to it.
I don't know. I'm not used to it. I think being around people and being able to do things again is going to seem really, really weird. But anyway, mate, thanks very much for coming on the show. You look tired, but you fought through this.
I've had a lot on.
I know you have. But thanks very much for coming on.
No worries at all, mate. My pleasure.
Also, thanks to John and to Carl and Alex as well, and thanks to you guys as well. Keep safe, guys, and hopefully you can join us in the next few weeks or so.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.